So for example, you have this sugar bowl. If you start to draw it with the default section, just kind of a rectangular shape, to just kind of looking at it from a point of view of a flat illustration, almost like the bottom one, so just kind of building that up from the beginning. And this being the rectangle, kind of a flat section, and taking the direct selection tool and highlighting the point there, and just moving it in about 10 spaces. I'm just going to change this so you can see it. Okay, taking this one, and just using the arrow key to get this shape here. So I'm just going to do the direct selection to grab the bottom section that has these widgets that bring this part across, so you can kind of see that selection. And so you could do it and split it, try to compensate for it that way, but it gives you a little bit of a illustration in trying to get these highlights in there. So filling this with a particular tone at least, and then going in this part and using the tool right here, which is called the mesh tool. And once you click on it, it gives a vertical and horizontal line that cuts across the image. If you stay on that line, it'll keep it relatively uniform, makes it a little bit easier. So you can select on a couple of these pieces. And I have the swatches happen with a series of gray colors, but that's giving you from the middle part out. Okay, so I'm just going to undo that just to show it to you again. Only this time, go all the way to the top and click, and as I set these points, I'll just give it a color so you can see it's highlighting that point and giving it a color, in this case just the tone. And once you click on it, you can see the color traipse down. That comes all the way down to the bottom point, and if you select that piece, I'll just give it a different color so you can see it. But by going all the way to the edges, you ensure that it doesn't break it all the way and goes all the way down to the bottom value. So when you select it, you can actually pick a color. In this case, I'm just grabbing trying to grab the corresponding value that goes up to the top one to get the shading so that it spreads it across there pretty good. And they start to climb on these edges. So, and depending on how close you place them, will give you the crispness of it. See, it's different than a gradient. It's kind of letting you shade along the edge. When you grab this, each of these pieces actually has a point, and the object starts to have that point connected with a shaded section to it. Okay, so when you take it away, you have this piece. It's just a flat section, but the gradients start to work within there, and this is the gradient mesh tool. Introducing that along with the 3D modeling. So I'm just going to put a ruler guide at the top. And this time I'll just take a pen tool, and I'm going to go to the right just to show it to you. Come down to this section. Shift key to make sure it goes straight across. I'm just doing half of this section. And I'm going to swap it across so it becomes the section that you see. I'm going to do this two different ways just to give you the idea. I'm going to option and draw it up there. So now I have a shape above it. Selecting these two using the Pathfinder and punching it out. So now I have this section, which represents the right-hand side of this piece. Okay. I just want to select these two with the direct selection tool, and that allows me to curve them. Okay. And I'm going to take this and fill this with a light gray. And in order to do this, I'm going to take the stroke off of there. And this is called a profile. Okay. Okay. So I typed that in there just so you can hopefully remember that. If you do this next function with a stroke on there, it'll slow down your machine, may lock up Illustrator. But what's going to happen is under Effect 3D Revolve, when I click on this, this whole window pulls open. I'll set it in the way here. When I hit Preview, this automatically kind of brings it across, wraps this section out, and gives you what they call the 3D model of this. Down in these options below, they have more options. So there's a circle with all the different lighting functions, but the circle with the square represents the light source. And when you click below it, you have ones that will add to it, some that'll delete it, and some that'll put it behind it. But it gives you a little bit of a light source to this, so I just expand it here, put a couple here. I'm going to put one behind it. Kind of see this section right there. This block that you see, we talked about perspective, and you can see that it has an isometric left, right, top, bottom. Shows everything from the front. So I'm just going to click on front so you can see it. It's exactly as this one. But when I go into something like an isometric drawing, left, right, top, or bottom, left and right shows you what this would be as a 30-degree angle, and the cube that's here corresponds to the shape that you have. So it's front, right, left, and middle, and this corresponds to the XYZ coordinate that you would see in geometry. So if you grab this, it also corresponds to RGB for red, green, and blue, just to keep that. So you can rotate this. It turns into a wireframe on the screen. You can rotate this section and rotate it across. And again, there's other pieces in here for putting images on there, but I'll just click to show it to you. If it'll mapping the art shows that it has 8 sides to this. If I click on a piece, for example, this graphic is shown, but on the inside shape. So you have eight panels that you can see from as you sketch through this part. So this one, we'll put it on. See if it'll show up. A little harder to do on the reflective. So that's on the inside of the cup. And you're allowed to have one image per panel, or at least facade to it. And shading the artwork will make it fill in with the values that you have. Okay, so clicking OK. So this is taking it from a 3-dimensional piece. Now, in order to modify this, you have to go back to get into this 3-dimensional window. You have to go through Appearance, and you can see that I have the fill. So say I wanted to change its color. Okay, so you can kind of modify it through this panel. And to get back into the 3D modeling, this is the panel that shows up. So when you click through that, you can kind of get an idea. And this is the shading that happens for it. Again, if I want to keep it from the front and just tilt it a little bit, it'll give me that shape. So it has its limitations, but again, that's taking these drawings from this initial part into a 3D part that had this piece made from that 2-stroke. One other way to show this is to simplify this, or at least show another possibility. See if I can demonstrate it. Is to taking the pen tool and just clicking it straight down for that angle. You're kind of imitating this angle here, coming straight across. So you have this triangle, and just swap this so that it has this thickness, and under the stroke panel, which is here, just increase the thickness of the stroke. And remember, you don't want to have a stroke for this piece to come across. So Direct Selection tool allows me to take this widget to curve it, and then using the object path outline that stroke, that gives me that selection. And if this, for example, was going to have a top piece cut off of this, you can see it's not perfectly straight. The easiest way would just be to take a rectangle, shift key them, and use the shapes to help trim that off. The bottom one's pretty good. So again, there's the shape. I'll give it a lighter blue. Effect. 3D is where it's located. There's 3 options. Just make sure you have Revolve clicked on it. And that gives you that initial selection. So again, this is nothing more like we've done before with the basic shapes of the isometric cube. You can see the 3 shades for that one. The spherical shape, using the light behind it to get the reflected light, and that gives you that curve around that piece. Okay, but on the screen too, you can also just manipulate the shape of this. And so you can change the shape from here, but if you need to get any further, you have to refer back to the appearance panel. Okay, so there's the drawing flat as a graphic using mesh tool to shade it with, and then just introducing the 3-dimensional piece to show you these sections before it. If you do this one that has the curved piece to it on the plate, on this guy, for example, take the pen tool, shift key that part, select this. That gives it the initial selection. Give it a different color. In this case, don't need to change it, but there's the outline of the stroke. Come up here to get a little bit of a circle using the Ellipse tool. Spacebar that across. And then just select these 2, combine them. It has no stroke to it. A little bit. Effect 3D and do the revolve on this one. So that gives you that edge that goes on to the outside there. Okay, so there you go.